He is the fourth grandson of Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, radiallahu anhu. And the generation of Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, radiallahu anhu, they are all narrators of Hadith, to the fourth or the fifth generation. And they are all imam of Hadith. Such a beautiful thing, right? قال حدثنا يعقوب بن إبراهيم قال حدثني أبي. My father told me. And حدثني أبي, my father had narrated such and such to me. Also one of the things that you would see a lot in the Hadith, which as one of the ulama, he says, يا ليتها تعود, which means we wish it will come back. That a person would say, my father told me. We say that all the time to our children, right? But is it truly matters of goodness? And this is what we need to be focused, so that our children will say, my father taught me, but it's the best if we taught them something of matters of the religion. That's why they say, be the first to teach your child Surah Al-Fatiha, for example. Why? Because he's going to recite it for the rest of his life. So don't let someone else do it. Don't let the teacher do it. No, be the one to do it, because it's a great reward. Although, mashallah, the mercy of Allah is so vast, but the issue of having the father to teach the son and the son to grow up and to say, my father taught me, and it goes from one generation to the other, and the rewards, something that nobody can comprehend. So this is one of the ways of the early generations of Islam, something that for us to learn and to reflect. So he said, حدثني أبي, and that's why the orphan is the one that loses his father when he was young, before the age of puberty. Orphan, al-yatim in Islam, is not the one that lost his mother when he's young. Al-yatim with his rulings is when he loses his father when he is young. حدثني أبي عن صالح ibn Kaysan, عن ibn Shihab, al-Imam al-Zuhri, one of the Imam of the Hadith. حدث, he narrated, أن عبيد الله ibn Abdullah. Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah أخبره, informed him, عن ibn Abbas, from Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, the cousin of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibn Am, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, if we talk about him, we can spend the whole night talking about Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he died, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma was only 13 years old. And he is the one that, we know the famous hadith, when he was behind the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, on a mule or a donkey, and the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ghulam, inni u'allimuka kalimat. O young boy, I will teach you words. Remember them. احفظ الله يحفظك, احفظ الله تجده تجاهك تبيئا. Protect Allah, mean protect the orders of Allah, Allah will protect you. And so on and so forth. The famous hadith, which is important that we teach ourselves and our children. The Prophet ﷺ is teaching Ibn Abbas, and he was not yet in the age of puberty. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, as it will come in the next chapter, the Prophet ﷺ made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him, that he comprehend the deen of Allah and comprehend the Quran and the tafsir of the Quran. That's why almost every verse in the Quran, you can find a statement of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma explaining a meaning in it. He took it directly from the Prophet ﷺ or from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, because he didn't get everything from the Prophet ﷺ. He was young, but when the Prophet ﷺ died, he would go to the Sahaba and seek the knowledge. And as it's mentioned that he said about himself radiallahu anhuma, that when the Prophet ﷺ died, it was him and a man from Al-Ansar. They were together, like in the same age or so. So Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said to him, let's go to the companions of the Prophet ﷺ that are present, let's learn from them. So his friend Al-Ansari from Al-Ansar, he told him, what's the matter with you, Ibn Abbas? You think you're going to be like the Muhajirin and the Ansar in knowledge? Of course, when the Prophet ﷺ just died, there was the Sahaba and Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, the big Sahaba, and you were just a young boy, you think you're going to surpass them in knowledge? So he didn't do that. He didn't seek that knowledge. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhum, he said, he would go and wait by the door of the companions radiallahu anhum to hear from them what they heard from the Prophet ﷺ, to the extent of which that he would sleep on the doormat so that he doesn't disturb them, which is one of the etiquettes. When they go to the people of knowledge, they don't knock on the door, come out, I have a question for you. No, they wait outside. And he would wait for him, and he would, a young boy, right? And he would oversleep, and he would sleep on the doormat, waiting for the Sahabi to come out. and the wind in the desert will come and blow dust on him. As he said, and the Sahabi would open the door and he found the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ in such a state. So he would tell him, Ya ibn Ammi Rasulillah, O the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, if you order me, I will come to you. This is because of the love that they had to the family of the Prophet ﷺ. You're a young boy, yes, but if you tell me, I would come to you to teach you because you're the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ibn Abbas anhuma would ask him and he would give him the knowledge and so on. Then later on, as Ibn Abbas anhuma, he said, when Ibn Abbas became the Habbul Ummah, the scholar of this Ummah, the people would come to him from everywhere and they would learn from him all forms of knowledge. They would come in masses and they leave, in masses and they leave, and so on. The Ansari, the man from Al-Ansar, then after the years, he said, the ghulam, the young boy, was smarter than me because he took the matter serious and he was seeking the knowledge, and the Ansari didn't do that, and that's why the ilm needs the patience. And as Imam al-Zuhri, one of the narrators of the Hadith, right, the third one before Ibn Abbas anhuma, he said, al-ilm or knowledge is not to be taken one shot. There's no knowledge in this world that a person would take it one shot. If a person is studying medicine, for example, it's not in one night and he becomes a doctor. He says, al-ilm or knowledge is to be taken one thing at a time, one ayah after another, one hadith after another, and a person is patient. And that's why the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for those who are sincere, they would continue. But for those who they had some excitement, sometimes a khutbah will excite you, or get you motivated. And then you would attend one dars, two dars, three dars, and then after that, the sincere ones are the ones that would continue, and the ones that it was just a matter of motivation. And this is the case with all matters of knowledge. You'll find in the beginning, mashallah, many people, but then what happens after some time? So great lessons, of course, to be learned. So Ibn Abbas anhuma is saying, أنه تمارى هو والحر ابن قيس ابن حصن الفزاري في صاحب موسى. That himself, Ibn Abbas, and Al-Hurr ibn Qais, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, Tamara meaning they argued. They were arguing with each other about fi sahibi Musa, with regards to the companion of Musa alayhi salam, meaning Al-Khadr. They not dispute, but they were arguing, who is he, or about him. Al-Hurr ibn Qais, he was one of the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and he used to be someone that Umar radiallahu anhu made him very close to him. So it's not just anyone, someone that Umar radiallahu anhu made him close to him and so on. And there's a story that regards to his brother when he came to Umar radiallahu anhu. He came to his brother first and he told him, I see that you have some status with the Khalifa. Can you let me in with you? And his brother was coming from the Bedouins and he was a little bit rough. When he entered and Umar radiallahu anhu, he said to him, Hey ibn al-Khattab, hey, oh the son of al-Khattab, you're not being just and this, right? So anyway, so it was a story. So him and Ibn Abbas, they had an argument with regards to al-Khadr. قال Ibn Abbas, huwa Khadr. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said, huwa Khadr, his name is Khadr. فمر بهما أبي بن كعب. أبي بن كعب, مر means passed by them. فدعاه ابن عباس. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma called him. فقال إني تماريت أنا وصاحبي هذا في صاحب موسى. Me and my friend, this friend, تماريت, we argued with regards to the companion of Musa alayhi salam, الذي سأل موسى السبيل إلى لقيه, the one that asked Musa the path to his destination, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf. هل سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يذكر شأنه? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu is asking Ubay ibn Ka'b, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Did you hear the Prophet ﷺ mentioning his name or about him? قال نعم. He said yes. سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, بينما موسى في ملأ من بني إسرائيل. بينما, we had this before, which means while, or when Musa عليه السلام في ملأ, in a group of Bani Israel. And the word ملأ, for the most part, it's used for those who are in status in a society or in a community. Sometimes it's used for more broader sense, but this is usually what it means. So while Musa alayhi salam was among the people of Bani Israel, إِذْ جَاءَهُ رَجُلٌ فَقَالَ, a man came to him and he said, هَلْ تَعْلَمُ أَحَدًا أَعْلَمَ مِنْكَ? The man told him, do you know anyone more knowledgeable than you? قال موسى, لا, I do not know. This is not out of arrogance, of course. He's a prophet of Allah. He's saying the truth. I do not know anyone more knowledgeable than me. And you see the knowledge here is used in what context?
The religious knowledge.
The religious context. Is the deen of Allah, the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Human beings, they can get knowledgeable about all kinds of things on earth, which is no problem in this whatsoever. This is a good thing if it's used in the good way. But who would get to know about the creator of the heavens and the earth without the wahi? These are the best, of course, definitely. Without undermining, of course, the other knowledge. So Musa alayhi salam said, I do not know. فَأَوْحَى اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ إِلَى مُوسَى. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Musa alayhi salam, Bala Abduna Khadir. And that's the end of the dispute or the debate. That he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Musa alayhi salam, you're not the most knowledgeable, but our slave Khadir. So the name Khadir was mentioned. فَسَأَلَ مُوسَى السَّبِيلَ إِلَيْهِ. So Musa alayhi salam asked السَّبِيل, the path to him. How can I get to him? Someone more knowledgeable than him? He has to seek that knowledge. This is the eagerness always to seek the knowledge, and he doesn't say, well, I'm a prophet of Allah, this is enough for me. فَجَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ الْحُوتَ آيَةً. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him al-hut, or the fish, as a sign. And we know the story as it's mentioned in the Quran. وَقِيلَ لَهُ إِذَا فَقَدْتَ الْحُوتَ فَارْجِعْ فَإِنَّكَ سَتَلْقَاهُ. If you lose the fish, then go back, you will meet him. وَكَانَ يَتَّبِعُ أَثَرَ الْحُوتِ فِي الْبَحْرِ. And he was following the traces of al-hut in the sea. فَقَالَ لِمُوسَى فَتَاهُ. The fata, or the servant of Musa, said to Musa alayhi salam, and then he quotes the ayah, أَرَأَيْتَ إِذْ أَوَيْنَا إِلَى الصَّخْرَةِ فَإِنِّي نَسِيتُ الْحُوتَ وَمَا أَنْسَانِيهُ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ أَذْكُرَهُ. He said to Musa alayhi salam, should we go back to the stone because I forgot the hut, the fish, and this was the sign. قال ذلك ما كنا نبغي فارتد على آثارهما قصصا. This is what we are waiting for. So they went back on the traces, and فوجد خضرا, as the Prophet ﷺ said, they found al-Khadr. فكان من شأنهما الذي قص الله عز وجل في كتابه. Then the Prophet ﷺ said their affairs was as it's mentioned in the book of Allah in the Quran. And as you see in the Quran is mentioned the three incidences of what Al-Khadr did with Musa alayhi salam, and then after the third time he said, you cannot be with me anymore, because he did not have the patience to witness things that looks or appears to be something wrong, but he was revealed to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he was nothing but someone fulfilling the orders of Allah. Of course, definitely, without getting into the details of the story, it is not permissible for anyone to claim that he is like Al-Khadr, he knows things, so he would commit sins and he tell the people, you do not know what I'm doing. Right? After the Prophet ﷺ, the message or the wahi has been sealed after the Prophet ﷺ, and that's why the issue of saying that Al-Khadr is still alive, there's no evidence of that whatsoever, but the evidence is against that. And what is it? Is when the Prophet ﷺ said, after 100 years, no one will be alive today, will be alive then. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That means right after 100 years, when the Prophet ﷺ was saying that, nobody will be alive on the face of earth. And if he was alive, he would come to the Prophet ﷺ and embrace the deen of Islam and be a follower of the Prophet ﷺ. Plus, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. He was a human being, and special, of course, human being, and he died, alayhi salam, and so on. So this is one of the means of where some people might deviate, claiming that they know the unseen or committing crimes, and they say we're doing like Khadr, and this is of course definitely not permissible. Great lessons to be learned from the stories of Surah Al-Kahf, and that's why we need to recite it every Jumu'ah. It's a light. That means we need to learn the benefit of it, and maybe this is in the dars of the tafsir or something, a person would learn that. And also, it shows that, as the Prophet ﷺ said, may Allah have mercy on Musa alayhi salam. If he had been patient, we will get to learn more, or get to know more things. So this is the hadith, and the hadith will be repeated many times in the book. So the benefit here, so that we don't go off the subject, is going into the sea when he got into the ship and so on, going with him and subjecting himself to some form of danger. For what reason? To seek knowledge. Right? And this is something that the early generations of Islam, they used to do. They used to travel for far distances, for one hadith or so, as it will come in the next chapter, I believe, or the chapter after that. So they used to travel, they used to sacrifice so much, and this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose these people for the religion to be saved. The religion will be saved no matter what. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised that He would save the religion. But out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He would entrust individuals, human beings, to elevate their levels, to be the ones that save the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the Sahaba and the Tabi'een and so on. And if a person in this life, in our time, person would learn the deen to save the religion. And we see the dire need of this. When the masses of the Muslims, we have a problem in knowing matters of the deen. There are sins are being committed, forgetfulness away from the deen, innovations of the deen and so on. So how can we change our situation? By learning and educating and being patient and so on. So definitely this is needed. And as we mentioned before, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, he said that he never seen a better deed after prophethood. ما وجدت عملا. I did not find an action بعد النبوة, or a manzila, or a level after prophethood, أفضل, better من بث العلم, from better than spreading ilm, spreading the knowledge of the deen of Islam. So he said, I never seen any level better after the level of the prophethood than spreading the ilm. Again, ilm is not the information, right? Information, it's easy for a person to get, but it's the knowledge with actions, that a person would learn to act and would have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the people of knowledge, those who would teach, are ones that should be the first to apply the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so on. Then after that he says, باب قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم علمه الكتاب. The chapter of the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, اللهم علمه الكتاب. Oh Allah, teach him the book, make him learn the book. This dua was to who? To Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Oh Allah, make him learn the book. Al-Kitab here means the Quran. So this is a dua from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his dua is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. And that's why when we get the tafsir of an ayah from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, should we refer to something opposite to what Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said? Definitely not. No one after Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we make him learn and comprehend the Quran like Ibn Abbas. But if it's more of extra meanings without any contradiction, definitely, alhamdulillah. That's why one of the miraculous things of the Quran, that one ayah can mean many things, which is a great thing, right? And people would never be satisfied with the Quran meaning every time they extract things from it and benefits from it. And they would see it every day with matters of knowledge, of course. But as long as there's no contradiction, once it's either this or that, of course, what words that we should put forward? Definitely the words of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, and their way of explaining the Quran when they learned it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he mentioned the hadith, حدثنا أبو معمر قال حدثنا عبد الوارث قال حدثنا خالد عن عكرمة the student of Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال, he said, ضمني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. ضمني means he embraced me. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم embraced me. وقال اللهم علمه الكتاب. He said, oh Allah, make him learn the book. And the same hadith will come in the kitab of Al-Tahara, when Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he was at his aunt's, which is Maymuna, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was spending the night there, and when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam woke up during the night to make his salah, he found, when he came out of al-khala after relieving himself, he found Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, a young boy, waiting for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the water to make wudu. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam embraced him like this, and he made the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him, that he would comprehend the book of Allah. So a simple deed like that, but to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu received this great dua from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And it shows also the manners of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, And one of the generosity that a person should have is to make dua to others. Generosity is with wealth and with dua without people asking. And that's why, as we said before, I'm not sure where, but we should not wait for people to tell us, please make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for me. Actually, people should not even, they don't need to say that, because Muslims, they already, this is part of their deen. You make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for oneself and for one's families and so on, and for ones that, anybody that you know, and for the whole ummah, right? And that's how they used to be generous with one another. So again, he mentioned this to show the level of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, and how this is such a valuable thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Then after that, he mentioned the next chapter, باب متى يصح سماع الصغير. باب متى, when, يصح from صحيح, meaning when is it authentic or sound or correct or valid, سماع الصغير, for the صغير, for the young boy to listen to the hadith. This is an issue in matters of hadith, the narrators of the hadith. What age they should be, so that they would narrate the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This is what he means. And they call it sin al-tahammul. There is two different things between when you heard something when you were young, or when you say something when you were young. Two different things, right? So if you're old, and I have the wisdom and the intelligence and everything, but you say, when I was young, before the age of puberty, I saw this, or I heard this. This is valid, right? If a person is a trustworthy person and so on. But if a young boy comes and says, I heard this or I saw this, then this is an issue. Maybe his imagination or something. He's a child. And this is what they talked about. So what age, regardless of what age, and they would not take, of course, the hadith of a young boy, but they would take it from him when he grew up and he's trustworthy and so on. So he says, حدثنا إسماعيل بن أبي أويس قال حدثني مالك, الإمام مالك رحمه الله عن ابن شهاب الزهري, that we just mentioned him before, عن عبيد الله بن عبد الله بن عتبة, the same one also from the previous hadith, عن عبد الله بن عباس رضي الله عنهما again, قال أقبلت راكبا على حمار أتاني. Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, he said, I came one day راكبا, riding on a himar. Himar is the donkey. Atan is the female donkey. So I was riding on a donkey. وأنا يومئذ قد ناهزت الاحتلام. And I am on that day just about to be in the age of puberty. Just, not there yet. ناهزت الاحتلام, that means right on the verge of reaching the age of puberty. That means he was young. ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي بمنى إلى غير جدار. And the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم is praying in Mina إلى غير جدار, meaning without a sutra in front of him. First, when he said قد نهزت الاحتلام, why this is significant? Because as we know, the age of al-taklif, the age to be responsible, is the age of puberty. Before that, the young boy or the young girl is called mumayyiz. That means he can know what is right and what is wrong, and he should do things, the obligations and so on, but he's not responsible yet. Till he reaches the age of puberty, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and this is the orders of Allah. So that's why the significance that he was young. And the Prophet ﷺ, he came with the donkey, right? And the Prophet ﷺ was praying, and he was praying إلى غير جدار, without being in front of a fence or so. فمررت بين يدي بعض الصف. I passed بين يدي بعض الصف, which means I passed by the rows, in front of the people when they were praying behind the Prophet ﷺ. Prophet ﷺ is praying as an imam. People are praying behind him, right? In rows. So Ibn Abbas, he's young, and he starts walking in front of the people in the rows, right? وَأَرْسَلْتُ الْأَتَانَ تَرْتَعْ. And I let the donkey free. Tarta', it was just taking its, ride all over the rows, right? The donkey going around the rows in the salah, during the salah. فَدَخَلْتُ فِي الصَّفْ. So I entered in the row, found a place, and I stood in the line. فَلَمْ يُنْكَرْ ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِ. لَمْ يُنْكَرْ ذَلِكَ عَلَيْهِ. What I did was not, I was not forbidden from doing it. That means, of course, there's great benefits here. First of all, he mentioned this here because Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said this later, when he became when older. And he mentioned something that happened to him when he was young, when he was not yet responsible. So the hadith is to be taken, of course, because that's Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu is saying something that happened when he was young. It's valid to say that, or to convey that, and this is hadith, and to learn from it, and to apply rulings based on this, yes. Even though he was young, but he narrated it when he was old. So this is why it's here in this chapter. And as you see, the ulama, they took from this, since nobody forbade him of what he did, that the sutra, when people are praying in jama'ah, is only for the imam. Nobody is to go in front of the imam. Right? This is not permissible. But if somebody had to go between the lines, then there's no harm. You should not stop someone if you find him, walking in the lines. Of course, this is not something that people would say, okay, that's permissible, so let's just, make it a game. Or we allow the children to just walk in between the lines. Of course, nobody ever said that. But say, for example, somebody broke his wudu when he's in the first line. And he needs to go, it's haram for him to continue the salah. So he has to leave. While leaving, he has to go in front of people when they're making salah. Salat al-Jumu'ah, for example. That's valid, there's no harm. People should not feel uncomfortable or he's breaking their salah or so on. It is not permissible for him to walk in front of the imam, but in front of the mu'min, no problem. The same thing if a person enters and say the door of the masjid is in such a way, not from the back, from the front or something, and the masjid is full, but he see a place, a space in the line when they're making salah. But for him to reach that spot, he has to walk in front of somebody, right? If he does, it does not break anybody's salah. Should a person do that, he has to weigh the benefits and the losses. If people have the knowledge of it, no problem. But if they don't, they might, fight with him afterwards. And I remember I was young when I heard this hadith, and I wanted to apply it. And it was a masjid in a very busy area in Alexandria in Egypt, and they were already praying. And I see a spot inside, and people are praying outside. So I said, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he did that, so let me just do that. So I walked in front of the lines, and people were kind of disturbed. And I get into the line. After the salah, somebody came and he told me, the Prophet ﷺ ordered me to fight you. You're walking in front of the people. I told him, Ibn Abbas, saying this. Of course, but it shows that people should not do something like that, especially when it's the masses of the people might not have this knowledge. You should not teach them this way. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, of course, and the companions of anhum, the matter was different, the context is different. So the ruling is it's absolutely fine, does not break the salah, but not something that a person will take it easy and then start doing this, unless there's a need for it. With regards to the sutra also, some of the ulama, of course, they take from this that it's an evidence that the sutra is not mandatory. Because the Prophet ﷺ, this is here, he was not praying to a sutra. Although the Prophet ﷺ, there's another hadith that he says, إِذَا صَلَّ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيُصَلِّ إِلَى sutra. If one of you prayed, he should pray to a sutra. So the matter has differences of opinion, whether the action or the speech of the Prophet ﷺ. The matter is easy, of course. And it's better for a person that when he prays, he should pray to a sutra. But sometimes, as even the ulama, they say, I don't want to get into some matters of fiqh in details of this, but say, for example, you come for Jumu'ah Salah. And the first line, you're standing and you want to have a spot in the first line, which is a virtuous place. But the first line is away from the sutra, right? So if you pray Tahiyatul Masjid or whatever, or even Salatul Dhuhr or so, and you pray in the Sunnah, if you go forward to pray, to be closer to the sutra, somebody might come and take your spot, right? And this is maybe in the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, people find a spot, they don't want to leave it. So for you to say, well, I'm going to pray to a sutra and miss your spot in the first row, this is where the ulama would say, this is tanaqqa, this is extremism. Don't lose your spot in the first line because you want to pray to a sutra. If there's a sutra, mashallah, great. If there's not, don't lose your spot. But if the masjid is spacious and there's means, of course, definitely, when people pray without a sutra, they make it difficult for others. Because it's not permissible to cut someone's salah, and where can you pass? Is it at the place of sujood or this or that? One last thing is, to be on the safe side, it's something that it depends on how people perceive it. So if somebody praying in the back, somebody walks in front of him, while we're sitting here, would we say that he is walking in front of him or no? If we say yes, he's walking in front of him, that means this is wrong. Meaning that if somebody by the pillar over there, and someone by brother like this, he's walking here. He's not walking in front of him. It's far away, right? So it's something that is not necessarily by the head and the sujood and so on. It's not that exact. It's all how things are perceived. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if people know, they would wait for even 40 before they would cross in front of someone when he's making something. So, but again, the point is, as we heard, Ibn Abbas radiallahu was young. It will come in matters of fiqh, but this is not the issue. Inshallah, if there's any questions at the end, but inshallah related to the topic, matters of ilm. Then another hadith, he says, حدثني محمد بن يوسف قال حدثني أبو مسهر قال حدثني محمد بن حرب قال حدثني الزبيدي عن الزهري عن محمود بن الربيع. محمود بن الربيع قال عقلت. محمود بن الربيع is a Sahabi. He saw the Prophet ﷺ when he was 5 years old. The Prophet ﷺ died when he was very young. So he's saying عقلت من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. عقلت means
intelligence.
Yes, intelligence, but it means here I remember what I remember with my intelligence. Meaning, what did they say it in English? When you remember something when you're so young, right?
A flashback?
Not a flashback. It's a with certainty, of course. But they say it like aqaltu, meaning I had the mind to remember. Because when you're too young, you might not remember anything. But he was in the age where he can remember things. He said that he was 5 years old. He was very, very young. He said, عقلت من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مجة مجها في وجهي ونبل 5 سنين من دم. He said, I remember from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم مجة. What's majja? Majja is when you put water in your mouth and you let it out. You spray it. No, not gargle. Is that when you just spray it out? Yeah, spray it on someone. Okay. So he said the Prophet ﷺ did that. What is it?
Like, yeah.
Right, when you put like this. Spit. Yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ did that, he said, in my face when I was 5 years old. This can be done in a very good way, and it can be done also in another good way. Because the Prophet ﷺ was doing that to 5 years old, and anything that comes from the Prophet ﷺ, this is blessings. Right? This is one of the best favors that a person can get. Right? So he's saying that as being honored that the Prophet ﷺ did something like that to him. Why it's mentioned in here? Because he was so young, but he mentioned it when he was old, and they took this hadith, and the hadith is in Bukhari, rahimahullah, and it shows, what comes from the mouth. Of course, the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ is the most pure mouth in the whole world, and so on. Then after that, قال باب الخروج في طلب العلم. باب الخروج, to go out, في طلب العلم, in seeking knowledge. So this is one of the good deeds. To go out from where? From your locality, from your town, to seek the knowledge of the deen of Allah. And he says, وَرَحَلَ جابر بن عبد الله مسيرة شهر إلى عبد الله بن أنيس في حديث واحد. This is still in the title. He says, Jabir ibn Abdullah, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, he traveled مسيرة شهر, 1 month journey, to Abdullah ibn Unais. Abdullah ibn Unais, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, that definitely he was in the battle of Uhud. There's differences of opinion whether he was in the battle of Badr or not. So he traveled to him the distance of 1 month. He was in Asham في حديث واحد, for one hadith. He left Al-Madinah for that purpose and nothing else. He went to Abdullah ibn Unais, the whole journey, 1 month, this time, right? With his provisions, with the effort, with all of this one way. For what reason? Just for one hadith. That he wanted to make sure, he had an idea of what the hadith is, by the way. But he wanted to make sure because he didn't hear it from the Prophet ﷺ directly. So he wanted to go hear it from the one that heard it from the Prophet ﷺ, and he heard that Abdullah ibn Unais radiallahu anhu heard it directly from the Prophet ﷺ. And he went, and as it's mentioned in the narration, without any exaggeration, that he knocked on his door, and he saw him, and he was so happy to see him. And it was said that he didn't even come down from his horse to make the matter sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he went out for that purpose, and he asked him for the hadith, and he left, and he came back for that one hadith. What would be that hadith? Can you imagine maybe this hadith will change one's life and so on? Yes, of course. Every hadith should be a life-changing. It was said this one hadith is that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, but a person might hear it while he's reclining, right, and not paying attention, and yeah, it's a hadith, and then he goes to the next hadith. Or we heard it many times and we never ponder over it. And these people, how much they went through to save the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for them to benefit, and see how much benefit they would benefit from this. The hadith is, it was said that the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man satara mu'minan fi dunya, satarahu Allah yawm al-qiyamah." Whoever satara musliman, meaning whoever conceal a Muslim, whether it's his faults, you conceal his fault. You conceal the fault of a Muslim, not in a bad way, but in a good way, not to expose him and so on, or to clothe him. Someone that is in need of clothing, so you would clothe him. It has the same meaning also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will conceal his faults in the Day of Judgment. That means he will be taking care of the Day of Judgment. He won't be exposed in the Day of Judgment with his sins and so on. That's it. And this is definitely, it's a great treasure. It's a life-changing hadith. Because you would see that the reward is given from the same sort of deed that we do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And they took these hadith and they applied it, right? Because they were in a trade with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is how they used to consider the words of the Prophet ﷺ. This morning I was talking to some about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. There are many hadith that sometimes we don't pay attention to it, right? Like for example, the Muslim is the one that do this, or the mu'min is the one that do this, right? There's great significance to this. When the Prophet ﷺ, for example, he said, "Al-Muslimu man salima al-Muslimuna min lisani wa yadihi." The Muslim is the one that the Muslimun is safe from his tongue and his hands. The Muslim. This is a serious matter. That means if Muslimin are not safe from his tongue and his hands, that means there's a question mark with regards to his Islam. It doesn't mean that he becomes a kafir, but means he's not the Muslim. He's a Muslim, but with less of Islam, with deficiency in his Islam. And the other hadith that we mentioned yesterday, Al-Mu'min man aminahu an-nasu fi amwalihim wa anfusihim. The mu'min is the one that an-nas, not just the Muslims, an-nas, people, they would be secure with him with regards to their wealth and their own lives. Secure, different than safe, right? The word salima is different than amina, and that's why amin from al-iman. Al-iman gives security. And when a person is safe, that's one thing, but when he's secure. And where are we from this? Do people, when they see us, they feel secure? When they look at us, they have the security in them with regards to their lives and their wealth. Leave your door open. Muslims are the best people ever, right? They won't harm anybody, they will not take anything from anyone. And you would see what kind of da'wah that we are doing when we cheat, when we lie, when we do all kinds of things, and we think that the da'wah is with the clear evidences. You know, it's La ilaha illallah means this and you cannot refute it. Yes, nobody can refute that. But it's not just about the person saying things, it's also about our actions. And this is how, this is something that would not come in one type of a transaction that you would have with someone, or one interaction that you met someone and he would definitely right away feel secure. No, this comes after some time. When people, they see you and they see you and their neighbors and dealing with one another, workplace, whatever places, and they see that that person is truly, he is someone that you can feel secure with regards to your your life and to your wealth, right? And this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is really something that the reason I mentioned this is what the hadith do to our lives, not just blessings, and a person will get some meanings and that's it. This is how they used to benefit from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's why this knowledge and these types of hadith, if it's for a year for a person to travel for something like this, it's worth it. So this is the title. And then, inshallah, we'll mention this hadith and we'll stop there, inshallah. The Shaykh is at 9. He said the same hadith of Al-Khadr, but with different chain of narrations. حدثنا أبو القاسم خالد بن أبو خليل قال حدثنا محمد بن حرب قال الأوزاعي. Imam al-Awza'i, one of the imam of the hadith. So many things about him, mashallah. It was said, by the way, he was born in Baalbek, Sham, but it was said that he originally from India. Many people, they don't know that, but he was born there, right? And Imam al-Awza'i, rahimahullah, he used to be mu'adhdhir and imam at the same time, right? So it's a valid thing that a person makes adhan and he makes iqamah and he becomes, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. قال أخبرنا الزهري عن عبيد الله بن عبد الله بن عتبة بن مسعود عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. At the end it's the same. أنه تمارى هو والحر بن قيس. The same hadith is repeated, right? That he had an argument with الحر بن قيس بن حصن الفزاري في صاحب موسى, with regards to the companion of Musa. We read it inshallah so that we make sure that we don't miss a hadith of Bukhari. فمر بهما أبي بن كعب. Ubay ibn Ka'b passed by them. فدعاه ابن عباس. Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنه called him. فقال إني تماريت أنا وصاحبي هذا في صاحب موسى. I argued, me and my friend, this friend, with regards to the companion of Musa, الذي سأل السبيل إلى لقيه, the one that asked the path to his destination. هل سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يذكر شأنه? Did you hear the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم mentioning something about him? فقال أبي نعم. Yes, سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يذكر شأنه يقول. I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم mentioning him, and he said بينما موسى في ملأ من بني إسرائيل, while Musa عليه السلام in the gathering of بني إسرائيل, إذ جاءه رجل, when a man came to him, فقال أتعلم أحدا أعلم منك? Do you know anyone, أحدا, one but more knowledgeable than you? قال موسى لا. No. فأوحى الله عز وجل إلى موسى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Musa alayhi salam, بلى عبدنا خضر. Yes, there is one more knowledgeable than you, which is our slave Khadr. فسأل السبيل إلى لقيه. In the other narration, فسأل موسى. Right here, فسأل السبيل. He asked the path to his destination. فجعل الله له الحوت آية. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made al-hut as a sign for him. وقيل له إذا فقدت الحوت فارجع فإنك ستلقاه. It was said to him, if you lose the hut, then go back and you would find him. فكان موسى عليه السلام يتبع أثر الحوت في البحر. He's looking at the hut or the whale in the sea. فقال فتى موسى لموسى, the servant of Musa said to Musa, أرأيت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه الشيطان إلا الشيطان وأن أذكره. The ayah. قال موسى ذلك ما كنا نبغي. This is what we are really seeking. فارتد على آثارهما قصصا. They went back seeking the traces. فوجد خضرا. They found Khadr, and the word Khadr is mentioned. فكان من شأنهما ما قص الله في كتابه. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrated to us what happened to them in his book in the Quran. So here is a safar. What is meant by here is to travel for knowledge. And this is by itself, there are books compiled with this. The travelings of the ulama to seek knowledge. Like what Jabir ibn Abdullah did, Al-Bukhari himself. You can never find imam of the imam that never traveled with seeking knowledge. They would finish what they have in their locality from the people of knowledge, and then they would go. And whether they have someone to support them, like Al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he inherited money from his father. So he would do this. Or the imam, the mother of Imam al-Shafi'i, for example, or the imam, you would find somebody supporting them, or they would have the wealth in which they would go into many different places to seek the knowledge of the deen of Allah. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated them. And as they say, if you are sacrificing in something, you know the value of it. If people work hard for money, they know the value of money. But when things are inherited, you find the child that inherited a lot of money, he doesn't really care about the money. He spends it, sometimes foolishly. But the one that earned it, he knows the value of it. And this is something also that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, which in Surah Al-A'raf, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Bani Israel, that some of them وَرِثُوا الْكِتَابِ يَأْخُذُونَ عَرَضَ هَذَا الْأَدْنَى وَيَقُولُونَ سَيُغْفَرُ لَنَا وَيَأْتِهِمْ عَرَضٌ مِثْلُهُ يَأْخُذُونَ. That Bani Israel, when they inherited the book, they were not living when the book was revealed, they inherited it. So what happened? When they inherited the book, they didn't have the value of it. They would always say, Allah would forgive us. يقول سيغفر لنا. Allah would forgive us. وَإِنْ يَأْتِهِمْ عَرَضٌ مِثْلُ يَأْخُذُوا. And when a matters of this world, materialistic things will come in front of them as a sinful act, they would take it. They would do it. They would indulge into the sin. وَيَأْتِهِمْ عَرَضٌ مِثْلُ يَأْخُذُوا. Why? Because they inherited the book. They did not put the effort as the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, for example, for this ummah, and that's why we have a responsibility to take. We should not be among those who inherited the book, and that's why you find the book is in the hadith and mashallah all kinds of technologies, and it's all there, and we just relax. And we have a huge responsibility in which we have to apply what we learn, and we have to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean that if matters are made easy that we reject it. No, we'll cancel all of this and we'll ride camels to that. No, nobody would ever say that. But that means the shukr of the ni'mah, the gratefulness about these bounties should be something that has to be clear in our lives. They had all these little means and still they would sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so on. We have all these favors from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we will be asked about it. How did we apply the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and put the effort with regards to matters of the deen? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who learn and benefit.